Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing this attracts an avoidant. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing this attracts an avoidant. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, it can be daunting if you believe they have an avoidant attachment style. It can also be confusing of what to do if you want to attract a brand new person who seems to have avoidant traits. In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 things that are more likely to attract avoidance. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is the right rhythm. Now let me know in the comments if you are trying to attract someone who is avoidant, whether they are an ex or not. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. And point number 1 is the right rhythm. Now, if this is an ex that we're trying to attract, the right rhythm should be, in most instances, if you have been dumped, never contacting them again unless they have contacted you first. Now, that is my generalized advice when you are a dumpee from any perspective. But when we consider in this regard that your ex might be an avoidant, well, it's arguably even more important because they're going to be needing that space potentially even more than somebody who had a different attachment style. So the right rhythm, if you have been dumped and your ex the dumper is an avoidant, is to make sure you honor that space. You respect their decision. You listen to what they have said, which in essence is, please leave me alone. I want to move forward with my life in a different direction. Now, I know you don't want that. I know you want to get your ex back. But to increase the chance of getting your ex back, you need to respect their decision. Now, as I mentioned, if you are a dumpee and your ex-dumper has a secure attachment or an anxious attachment, I would still suggest in most instances to maintain my version of a no contact rule. But if you know your ex is an avoidant, there is very, very few excuses and reasons as for why you can think reaching out to them is going to help. I would suggest it is going to be a much more difficult scenario for you to attract an avoidant if you are a dumpee who keeps trying to reach out to your dumper, chasing in any regard. Now, if this person isn't an ex, let's just say they are a brand new person that you have met and you want to attract. Maybe you work with them or you go to a class group or club and you like this new person and you, for whatever reason, believe they have an avoidant attachment style. The right rhythm in this regard is making sure that you attract them whilst also maintaining that space, which of course we've just been referencing if you happen to be an ex. So in this regard, you might be able to be reaching out, so to speak. If you, of course, have got to know someone new, there is no banning order on you reaching out initially. But what you must absolutely make sure is that there is no double texting. You need to be absolutely clear that you keep that rhythm that we imagine in a game of tennis. You hit the ball over the net, and you can't hit it again until it has been hit back to you. That is why we suggest you should not be double texting. You've hit the ball over, now you can't do it again until it's been hit back. And that might take hours, days, weeks, months. It might never happen. And if it doesn't, well, unfortunately, I don't suggest you try and reach out again. You've just got to accept that this person is not wanting to interact with you. When somebody has an avoidant attachment style, they're going to be seeking a safe rhythm of communication. And as I said, if you've been dumped and you want to get them back and they are an avoidant, that safe rhythm at this moment in time is you never contacting them again unless they contact you first. If it happens to be a new person, then there is no harm in you reaching out initially, but you've got to make sure you don't reach out twice before you hear back from them. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like and hype this video. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is be someone with your own interests. Now this doesn't matter if you're trying to attract a brand new person who happens to be an avoidant, or whether you're trying to get your ex back who has that avoidant attachment style. Being someone with your own interests is going to be huge in this regard. Now, once more, if you were in a position where you're trying to attract any person into your life, then having your own interests is never a bad thing. I'm never going to suggest that that's a bad idea, but if the other person has an avoidant attachment style, this elevates the necessity of you doing this to the extreme. Because if you don't have your own life, then this is going to scare someone who has an avoidant attachment style. If they believe that you are going to be putting all of your love, attention, all of your eggs in one basket, which is them, that is going to cause anxiety in someone who is an avoidant. So it's really crucial that you almost quote unquote get your own life. Now maybe some of you already feel you do, but I would suggest a lot of people listening either don't, or certainly they don't right now. Maybe you did have hobbies and interests and friends that you used to see, but maybe at the moment, not so much. Maybe those friends are now in relationships and you don't see them very often. Maybe hobbies and interests that you used to attend, maybe you're not doing that anymore because life evolved, life changed. Maybe you were with this person, they're now your ex, and when you were together, you just stopped going to these places. So now you're sitting at home alone and you don't really have anything to think about. So getting out and gaining that new life in a way is going to be very helpful for you and your own mental health, as well as improving your own skill set, including your communication skills. But regarding somebody with an avoidant attachment style, they will see you as a safer option than someone that they know doesn't have anything going on. And that is why it's so important that you do have your own interests, hobbies, you see your friends. Somebody who is an avoidant is going to be more likely to be very nervous of someone that they believe is going to want to have them as whole, in a way where you as a dumpy potentially, or you as a new person trying to attract someone who has an avoidant attachment style, they'll be looking at you and thinking, well, this person doesn't seem to have anything going on. So if we get closer, they're going to want to speak to me 24/7. They're going to want to invite me to every single thing they are doing. They're going to want to make me their whole world. That can be scary to someone who is an avoidant. So it's huge. It's really important, not just for your own benefits, but to try and attract an avoidant. Be someone with your own interests. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is low intensity positivity. Now the first 2 points we've spoke of today is and are possibly things that you may have heard of, at least anecdotally, or something that perhaps you kind of thought, yeah, that makes sense. But I'm fairly confident that not many of you, if any at all, would have heard of the concept of low intensity positivity. So This is where you can really gain that advantage in trying to attract or indeed re-attract someone who has an avoidant attachment style. And hence, if you feel that this podcast could help others in a difficult situation, like trying to attract an avoidant, X or not, then please share it in breakup and attraction communities, groups and servers. Let's help as many people as possible. So when I'm talking about low intensity positivity, this is based on research. And the research has shown that avoidants bond better with people who showcase positive interactions, but without high intensity. Now that might sound very confusing, but if I'm trying to break it down, this would be something such as having a calm sense of humour, or having that mellow tone to your voice. Doesn't mean you want to be wooden or robotic, but just having that calmness, just maintaining that low intensity has shown through research it can be a safer space for someone who is an avoidant. Now, when we're considering those things that you probably should be doing, what shouldn't you be doing? Well, that would include things such as not showcasing high emotional communication. So obviously, life is life. Life is unpredictable. And if something shocking happens to you, I'm not expecting you to not be able to communicate with this person. Communication is vital. You've got to be able to communicate in a genuine and honest way. But in a general sense, you've got to be trying to make sure that you are not being overly emotional and unloading all of that emotion on someone who is an avoidant. Because if you do, it is likely to scare them off. And it isn't just the communication side of it. It could be connected to activities, experiences. In general, what we have found and what we have seen is that avoidants, as I described earlier, connect, they bond better with people who showcase positive interactions, and that is important. Let's underline that, let's highlight that. We're not talking about negative interactions, negative communication. Of course we aren't. We're also not talking about boring, pointless, nondescript communication. Just because I'm suggesting it's done in a calm way, it doesn't mean that it can just be going nowhere or boring, for want of a better phrase. It has to be positive, something which could be deemed as a positive interaction or activity, whatever it might be, but just removing the high intensity, just trying to lower the levels somewhat. That has been shown through research to create a scenario which is safe enough for someone who is an avoidant to bond better and sooner. And if you want to get your ex back, you need to be playing this very, very carefully. Because as much as I've already suggested, you should be never contacting your ex again unless they contact you first. If and when they do contact you, that communication stage you have now entered is really, really important. And I'm often asked, can I get my ex back? They're an avoidant. Yes, you can. I've seen it often take place, but it can only take place if you tread this path carefully. Similarly, if you want to attract someone new into your life, maybe you've joined a class group or club as someone that you really, really like, and you're trying to communicate with them. I've already described the rhythm, the pace that you need to be showcasing, but make sure that when you do communicate, it isn't that high emotional communication style. Because if you do that, from whatever angle you're looking at this, ex or new person, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to be high on the emotional levels, it is much less likely to be seen as a safe space for that other person, the avoidant, to connect with you. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is definitive. I can't guarantee that you will re-attract an ex or get someone into your life that you want to by following these steps. But what I can say is that if you do the opposite, you're much less likely to achieve your goal.